But people, I am late and you're not gonna guess why. I hope you're having a good day, you've had food, water, everything you need to do, everything you need to get done. I'm gonna do this, so I don't have to do it later. Today, we are gonna be doing another build challenge. I have 5 chances to do this. I'm gonna try and build from memory. I'm gonna look at a random image for 5 minutes, or not 5 minutes, that's the wrong thing. We're gonna look at a random image for 5 seconds. I've picked out 10 of these, and I have a random image generator that's gonna give me one of them. I get to look at it for 5 seconds, and then I get 5 minutes to build it. So we're gonna see how that turns out. And if I fail and it does not look like what it's supposed to, which admittedly is objective, but if it doesn't look like what it's supposed to, I gotta do the next stream without my glasses. I have very horrid vision. Like, I have very thick lenses. I cannot get most types of glasses because of how thick my lenses are. I cannot get most frames. So this is going to be interesting. Also, I'm on the Peshin SMP mod pack because I choose to. I'm aware it is not on screen. I'm trying to move to an area. Get me out of the floor. Trying to move us to a good area that I haven't been yet. I still have a bunch of old stuff from whenever there was the last time I used this. Clear. There we go. Huh. And now we're gonna actually move over to gameplay. There we go. Yeah, this should be fine. It looks horrid because I'm out in the middle of nowhere and it's going, oh, you haven't loaded these chunks. Hey, there's a random thing here. I want to do this on the Passion SMP mod pack and just have fun building on Passion SMP mod pack because I said so. Is there like a flatter area for me to do this? There is that over there. I was doing a thing over here. But maybe I can just delete that. It really doesn't like me doing anything, does it? Minecraft is not responding. Oh, there it goes. I was trying to figure out patterns. Like, oh, because your armor stand. You know how we're gonna fix this? There we go. This is not where I was. That is where I was. Get this out of my face. This is not what we're doing. This is not what we're dealing with. I spent way too long figuring out what I wanted to put on my wings for PSMP. I spent way too long doing. And then I realized, oh, hey, there's more things I could have done, and it wasn't what I thought it was, and then I realized, well, okay, whatever. And then I ended up going with my first choices anyway. So it is what it is. Alright. And music is not a good choice of music. This is hyper. I do not wish for that right now. No, not right now. No. We're gonna go with this one. That'll do. So as I said, let me get rid of all these things in the chat. There we go. So as I said, today we're gonna be doing another build challenge. And I have to build from memory. I have 5 seconds to look at the randomized image from a source of 10 of them. I have 5 seconds to look at a random image. I've selected 10 of these and it's going to give me a random one. I have 5 chances to do this and 5 minutes to build each one. If I fail and it doesn't look like what it's supposed to, next stream I just gotta do without my glasses, which is not, I don't have good vision. So let's get into this. I was looking for a bunch of like random image stuff. I found a website that specifically you could pull up your selected images. I found these main 5 right here. Just the initial, you can't see my mouse. Can I highlight specifically these ones? No. I found these. That's not gonna work, is it? These 4? It's not, it doesn't want me to click just this left one. Oh, you can see my mouse, there we go. And this one. I've got, you know, I should have just said the numbers. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 9. I found simply from the random search. The music's a little loud. That's not good. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 9 I found from random Pinterest search, and then the other 5 I literally just scrolled down from those and decided on an image. So how we're going to do this is I'm going to click pick image. I'm going to have a timer on my phone, and when that goes off, I can no longer look at the image and I just have to see what I remember. Is this probably a horrid idea? Yeah. We're going to find out. We are going to find out. And turn up my volume so we can make sure I'm doing this as I should. Pick image. Select images. Click next. Okay. Next. I need to be able to do this. There we go. Random image. It does a whole wheel thing. This one. Okay. Details, details. Moss roof, sandstone probably, and I'm already done. Okay. I'm trying not to look at the image, but I need to get rid of the browser. And then move over stream. Why do I have stream on it? Why do I have the Minecraft on a window capture? When did I move it to a window capture? Okay. Whatever. Apparently it's been on window capture, not game capture for however long. There was an image. It's not quite a sandstone. It wasn't a sandstone color. It was darker than that. This is a good starting point. It was like a darker beige. I kind of want to make it out of the strip jungle wood. Strip jungle wood and oak wood. I need to put 5 minutes up. I need to do that. Don't I have a timer? I used to have a timer on screen. I didn't. I don't anymore. Okay. Phone timer it is. There we go. 5 minutes. There was a mossy roof. We're gonna also grab that, because I want that. Probably need this. And then we had windows. I have a lot of windows because we're on the PSMP mod pack. I have all the Macaw's windows. What color were the windows? I'm gonna go with stripped birch pane. Axiom, save me. How well can I use this as well? That's a good question. We need cylinder. Yes. Cylinders. Hello? Size bit bigger. No, that about size. Yes. And I'll leave it as stone. I click enter. There we go. And then do the other one slightly smaller. Hello, Wolfie! Hi! We're doing a build challenge. I have to build from memory. And I only have 5 minutes to do each attempt. If I fail, I gotta do my next stream without my glasses. So we're gonna see how well this goes, and I'm trying my best to use Axiom to help me out with this. That's a lot more stone than I want to select. That's not good. That's not good. I just want more ways to mess with these challenges. I thought this would be a fun thing. I have a decent memory. Like, I say, like, oh, I can't remember what I had for lunch yesterday. I can, because we're eating fast food right now. Because the kitchen's getting remodeled, which is why I couldn't stream yesterday. But I can remember eerily specific details. I remember very distinctly a house I visited one time for some uncle or another. Out in the middle of absolutely nowhere. How are you today? I'm doing good. I actually got to just hang out most of the day. We ended up not streaming yesterday, one, because construction was loud. Thankfully, that's the only loud construction that should be happening with the kitchen remodel, because it's just redoing the ceiling, paint the walls, get a new floor in. So the rest of the stuff isn't loud. What was loud was having to re-sand down the ceiling, which it was loud again. They didn't start till late, so I could have absolutely streamed in that time in hindsight. But I did use the time to edit. So I actually had the video done last night, and I was just able to spend the morning writing, drawing, just chilling out, hanging out. Yeah. It's been a minute since I've actually been ahead of video. Why am I doing this? I don't need to do this. I don't need to do this at all. What we're gonna do is we're gonna be a smarty pants. We're gonna take... I think I can do this, select all of it. I should be able to... Isn't there extrude? Corners, yes. There we go. And do it 2. There we go. Beautiful. And now I should be able to just select. We're gonna clear selection. But I just had a really easygoing day despite the annoying construction going on. We want probably noise painter, maybe. What? We're gonna do noise painter for this one. We're gonna go with this block and this block and meatball splatter, probably splatter. Just splatter it about. That's probably what it looked like. I don't know how much time I have left. It took me longer than it should have just to simply do that stone bit. So I have no idea the time I still have. And this is definitely going to be a trial and error. I feel like it's going to be victory if I even get one of these. Because I can be quick about building this, but it still takes me time. It's going to take me longer than the little bit of time I have. We're going to do a cutoff and do a tall cutoff, so I can just do a tiny little roof on this. I have no idea how this is gonna turn out. Tinier, please. Tinier. It's off-center as well. 12? 12, yes. A little bit more. 14. The timer's already done! This is all I got done. That is all I managed to get done in the 5 minutes. We want to see the full image. We want. Oh dear. Well, I was on the way there. Let's copy image address. Yeah. It's we're gonna put thank you. Where's image URL? There we go. Oh, that crashed the server. That crashed the game. Okay, I'm not allowed to use annotations. We're gonna do this the old-fashioned way by putting an image on the screen. Good to know. Am I not allowed to enter this world anymore because I dare try and use an annotate? Can I delete? Can I back out? Have I broken the world? Okay, we're fine. We're gonna do this old-fashioned way by putting an image up on the screen. This is what it was supposed to be. So, sandstone would have been just fine. I remember the colors wrong, and I didn't get the chance to do anything else. And I also flip-flopped the size. Can I even do this in 5 minutes? Can I do... There's some of these I can do in 5 minutes. Other ones, I'm gonna have to just do broad strokes and hope I can get it. Well. So, what I need to actually pay attention to... I knew one was taller than the other, and I just assumed right-left when it was left-right. I need to... Maybe I should be building miniature. Technically, I never said anything about scale. Technically, miniature counts. Technically. As long as it's just... as it's accurate. As long as it looks like the thing it's supposed to look like. As long as I can get that done, technically it's correct. Alright. We move a little off to the side. And apparently glitch out my game ever so slightly. And we can come back over to the randomizer. Without me exposing my bookmarks. There we go. So I have, again, 5 minutes, or 5 seconds to look at an image, and we're going to have 5 minutes to build it. And I have little timers on my phone to do this, because I used to have a stream timer, and I don't know where it is. So we're going to do a pick random image, and it's going to do a whole carousel of all of them, and then land on one. This is the one it landed on. Okay, the nose face thing. Orange hat, big square, it's already done. Okay. I'm just going to click on Minecraft and then close that. There we go. That'll do. I'm going to let myself clear my inventory first because I didn't do that. We're going to set timer for 5 minutes. I'm going to try and build that somehow. If I do it small scale, we're going to have a better chance. I'm going to immediately say smooth quartz. That feels correct. But color with the windows. There's a nose. There's a nose. There's a nose. There's a nose. I'm gonna just go with normal quartz window. We're gonna do yellow terracotta for the hat roof thing. Were there any other details? There's like iron bars at the top I can do. Iron bars? What kind of bar? Iron bars? No? What are bar? What are the versions of the iron bars called? Atmacaw? Iron? What are you called? Ornate something or other? Metal, you suck. I have limited time to do this. These. That's fine. Okay. There were windows up above and down below. They did this, I think? I'm gonna assume, because it looked like that, kind of? And they did a nose, and there was a window here. It's a Squidward house, obviously. I don't know what invoked this architect to do the thing they did, but they certainly did it. They certainly did. I'm gonna go as far enough to do this. There we go. Thank you, Nightbot. I don't have a lot of time to do this, so we're gonna do the best we can. Also, I'd love more ideas for build challenges. Because the only other thing I think of is themes. Or I want to see if I can get, like, Lilac and Axe to do some. Because I feel like that'd be fun. I said that last time, I need to actually text them and be like, hey, do you guys have time to do this sometime? That'd be cool. I'm gonna use the shortcutty. Actually, I do this better by hand. I know what I can do. Because it was kind of rounded at the top. It was kind of rounded. Just a little bit. Just a wee bit. But it was still kind of like this, and there were windows up here. I probably should have done like a middle window, but it's fine. And I'm gonna do it, and then we can go all the way around, and I can go around and change the block state of these. So it doesn't connect with Axiom? Right? No, you're just not gonna let me, macaws? Do you just suck? Because usually I can go over and then go a boop, but apparently I'm not allowed to do that with macaws items. Noted. That's not quite what it looked like. What else am I missing? I guess, yeah, that is the thing, but also it's not. Was there... I feel like it had some sort of eyebrow somehow. What else did it have? Did I even set the 5-minute timer? Yes, I did. What else did we have? I'm gonna do black behind the windows. so I don't. It can be more accurate, technically speaking. Because I'm gonna fully loophole my own rules. The only thing it had to be was accurate, and I don't know what I'm missing. Because this just looks like a guy. The house looked like a Squidward. Is it longer nose? Kind of, yeah. Now it's just a villager, but that was the house, right? Right. I don't know what else. I'm gonna slightly round this. I don't know if that's a horrid call, but I'm gonna do that. We're gonna go boop from this block, boop to boop, bring it forward one. I feel like the house is slightly rounded. I have to be a little silly. Quartz. What can I do with quartz? What can I do that's wall-like with quartz? I'm gonna have to do pale oak. Pale. I want trapdoor as plain as I can get. Probably do this. I'm definitely running out of time to do this. It could have not been. It could have not been rounded at all. But I just feel like it was ever so slightly rounded. I don't know. I just feel like it was. I'm gonna be so incorrect on this, but I feel like that feels more correct. There's definitely something at the bottom, but I don't remember what was at the bottom. Good, time's up. Okay. How well did I do? How well did we do? He had a mustache and a chin. And eyebrows. Is that recognizable, though? Is that still recognizable enough to pass? I purely and only remember the nose. I didn't remember another damn thing. It was taller. It had a mustache, it had a chin. I got the bare basics, but I definitely could have done more. This is like a C. This is a barely passing grade. But I still feel like that's a fail, because I didn't remember the important parts of this. The black behind the windows definitely helped, because it makes it feel like it's more. If I just had the grass behind there or the other quartz, it wouldn't have felt as accurate. Hello, Shadow. Yes, I will hydrate. I forgot I had root beer in front of me. I will drink water, though. And I will stretch as well. Yes. We do. Big arm stretch. All the stretchies. Big stretch. Thank you. Okay. So I need to get better at the small details. Miniature helps. I could have gone smaller with this. It is a good job, though. Thank you for the crab rape. It is definitely a good job. Still only like a C+. But it is a better job than... Get rid of image. It is still a better job than that. We try again. I just gotta hope miniature is the way that I can do this. I want to get 100% correct on one of these. That is the goal. At least 80, but I want to do 100% somehow. I want it perfect. There is one. I only get 5 tries out of these, but one of the 10 images I know is just a cute little quaint thing that would be really easy if I got it. Problem is, do I get it? It's going to go back to this. It's going to do a carousel wheel. We're going to pick a random image. I have 5 seconds to look at it. What am I getting this time? Yeah, you can see the teacup briefly. You giving me? Okay. Abandoned house. 5 seconds. A-frame, back corridor, tiny windows, and that's done. I remove window capture. We go back to Minecraft. Okay. I get to clear my inventory because I keep forgetting, and now we have 5 minutes on the clock. definitely like, I kind of want to do, we're going to do spruce wood. We're going to do spruce woods. I'm going to do the spruce basic window. We're going to do a normal spruce door, probably. I'm going to be indecisive and do classic door. We're going to do the resizable door, and this is completely just the framing and how, yeah, it is completely framing. I'm going to make my life easier and pick this. I need to do it small. I need to do it small so I can save myself the time and actually do it accurately. I need one window here, and then there was a door just off to the side of that. I'm gonna need to do black concrete behind these, so it's technically more accurate. And then there's a tall window here for some reason. And then it wrapped back around, and there was a thing back here that had more windows. I can't do a curved window. These don't do curved windows. Glass. Yes, thank you. Grab that back, because I'm actually gonna need that. We're gonna do the most basic small little boy thing. The smallest, the small little boy. I'm gonna just safely assume this. I don't need to worry about the back. I don't know why I'm trying to do the back. I don't need to do that. These were taller windows. I don't know why there's a chicken that died right there. It's distracting. There we go. Save myself all the time that I can. And then across here, and it had an A-frame roof, and it had a pointed roof up on top of this. This one had a second floor, kind of. It did go taller than the other thing. But not super taller. Not super much, not super. This is off by one, that's why. That is why. Okay. And we don't know what the back looked like. Well, I don't care at the moment. We're just trying to get as much of this across as I possibly can manage in a small scale. I'm gonna save myself some time. Take this from here to here. Stack, stack, yoink. Nope, not that tall. About there. Doot, doot, doot. Doot, doot. And then this started going up and rounding up. If I can manage to pull that off in the limited area that is Minecraft. We do have roof. We do have spruce roofs that I can use. There is, we can use this and this and this and this. And then we go, da, 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 da. I'm being indecisive and it's not helpful. Probably something like that. Something to that extent. I'm not going to worry about that side because you're not going to see that side. We're going to do this, this, this. I actually learned this. I learned you can hack it like this and then replace it with that. So it looks correct. The only thing I could really replace that with would be a piece of oak, so it all matches up. You're gonna see that side, so I need to fix that side as well. Yeah, yes, 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 all the things, all the time. I need the other roof. I need the other one. I need the basic one. Thank you. I need the other roof. Roof. That's not how you spell roof. I didn't place it. I should have done the obvious answer. Take this to here, stack. Take this, stack it. I think I might have gotten this one. Maybe, perhaps, something like it. I have the time. I might as well go all in on this. If I can manage to do so. But and then how did I did the short little thing. And then do, yes? Yeah? 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 Maybe? Okay. Perfect. how well did I do? And how much do we want to consider this to be correct? Let me change this to the correct image. I missed the window up above, and it didn't need to be dark inside. Considering there's not a lot of detail in this, I feel like those are key features. I'm getting the general shape and frame and form of this correct, but I'm missing some of those key details. I need to, like, what my eyes immediately go to. I need to, oh, there's light behind there. There's this thing, there's that thing. I'm looking too much at the forest and I'm not seeing the trees. I need to see the tree. Literally, I need to know how to draw this tree so I know how to draw the forest, and I can recognize that I passed and I drew the forest. I'm just speedrunning builds. I realized in hindsight, 5 minutes isn't a lot of time. It's making this really fun. In hindsight, this is not even going to be like an hour-long stream. This is not going to be a long stream at all. I have no idea what we're doing for the rest of this. I might just call it there. I don't know. It might just be a fun, short little stream. I don't know. Okay. I got a fair amount of it. I probably could have gotten more bonus points if I did an actual trim around that. I should have done a trim. The roof could have also been pointier. It's too silo. It's not pointy. Should have done pointy. If I literally built up one more block, it would have looked better. Or one or two more blocks would have looked better. I almost clicked stop streaming. That's not what I want to click. I want to click on this image. And then bring back up this window. Alright, we've done 3 images. It's now time for number 4, and I am barely getting better each time, so let's see if I A, luck out and get the teacup, or I get this right by 5. Pick random image. It lands on the other creepy house. No, it lands on this one. Okay. Upside down, dark roof, red, yellow window. Not look. Okay. I never clear my inventory. Ever. I'm already forgetting what it looks like. I'm already forgetting. I can feel it slipping. Dark. No, deep slate, definitely deep slate. We'll do the dark brown, red terracotta, red terracottas. I'm gonna do concrete. Concrete feels like a better color for this. I want to do a quartz underline. I feel like it was one of those Barney kind of houses. Barney the Builder. There was a foundation at the very top. I'm gonna do stone. There were yellow windows. Window. We'll do birch window. Door. Were the windows dark? We'll do black concrete, just as a default. Door. What's gonna be a convincing door, even though it's supposed to be upside down? You know what? This is good enough. That's good enough. I need to small scale this. Thankfully, we should be able to. I just have to worry about the window size, but that's fine. How do you even? I need more deep slate. I need another block of deep slate so I can actually do this. Oop, no, close that. And then like this. Yeah. We're gonna see how much I can actually pull off here. You know, I'm gonna do one row of this and then continue off with the rest of it. We're gonna try and do our best. And our best is what it is. Just our best. Clearly, my brain is all in on trying to do the things I need to do. Whip. Yes, whip. Thank you. And then we go whip. Fantastic. And then I want to I don't know if that's correct. It just feels correct. Yeah, I feel like that's definitely the correct red. That's gotta be the correct red. And we're gonna take this and stack quite a bit actually. Little bit more. Not quite that much. Just that much? Yeah? Yeah. I might actually trade this out. I think it literally just needed one more row. And then do that. Doot. Doot. Oh, up to there. Doot. And then back to here. And then doot. Doot. Over here. Doot. Doot. Over this way. Bonus points for the other shit that I didn't need to do. Because if I get this right, that'd be really cool. There's another one right here. And they had like a weird one up here. And then we're gonna go from here to here. Drag it across. And we're gonna go inside the house. And doot doot. Doot doot. Doot doot. Doot doot. That feels correct. What am I missing? There are definitely more things I could do with this. What am I missing? I feel like pull back. That's probably correct. The cookie breaks this a little bit, but it's fine. This is probably correct. I don't know what else I can do to fix. What do I still have like a minute. I'm almost second guessing myself at this point because I'm like, what else was there? What else could there have possibly been for me to put on this house? Because it's a perfect A-frame. It's that dark red color. It had the couple windows. I probably could have done this a slightly bigger scale, but a couple of windows awkwardly around the door that weren't all the same size, and it had a window up above. There were stairs in front of it. That's a thing. As long as I recognize, like, we'll do stone steps in front of it. Because it was like a porch. Hold on, pale. It was like a porch. We'll do this, and then bridge stair. Because I had something like this in front of it. Yeah! That feels correct. I feel like that's an important, integral piece. I don't know what else I'm missing, because I'm absolutely missing other stuff. I'm gonna fill the time. I don't know why I'm typing it out each time. I can literally click the up arrow once, and it'd do it. Can I at least get these blocks before the timer goes off? Yes. Okay. I don't know what else I could do. That feels right. That's about as best I'm gonna get from Minecraft. There it goes. Okay. How well did I do? Blank. That is a very small image. There were more windows, and the door was at the top. I did remember the quartz trim in the foundation, and the stairs, but I flip-flopped the window, and where the door was. The door was at the top. The door is the normal spot, and there are windows along the side. Again, I feel like this is the Squidward house, where it's barely passing, but that's not what it is. It's missing integral pieces that make it what it is. So I gotta get this on the 5th try. Or get the key, or get the teacup. Those are my options right now. I'm gonna fully trust in this. We're gonna build this up on top of the hill because I'm gonna be proud of this build. I'm gonna be so proud of this build. Unless I get the Victorian. I could get the Victorian. There are like 2 different Victorian houses, and I've been lucky not to roll either one. Okay. I could roll the bounce house. There's a bounce house. We're gonna random image. Random house in the middle woods. Window brick out. Get rid. Okay. I barely get to say like 2 words before anything happens. I don't remember color. We're gonna go with... I want to say this oakwood. I don't know why. I want to say the oakwood. There was a brick chimney in the back. There were bricks in front. There was... there was a pale oak door, and I'm gonna do pale oak windows to match. There's a dark door. There's a bright door, not dark door. Bright door. It was dark in the house, so the black should be fine. It had a front porch. It had a front porch with It was connected. Let me do this one because that'll get me what I want. We're gonna do time set night. Make it really feel like this. And there's a door here, and then there was a window. And it was like this, right? Something like that. Let's do another one here because I feel like that's correct and also makes an A-frame like I need. There were a couple bricks here for some reason. I think there were windows along here. I'm pretty sure of that. And there's a chimney in the back. We're gonna try and get as much of this as I could possibly manage. We're gonna do each of these. Why not? That's probably correct. The twos. Stockade fence. Oh, I'm gonna actually get rid of one of these, and then there's the oak. Or no, we don't want oak, we want just one type roof. Too many O's. That'll give us what I want. After I place the black concrete for all of these. Can I play? Yeah, I can place it just right against it. Roof, which will give me all the roof blocks I could want. Okay. And then we gotta make a roof. Make roof work. Make roof. Make roof. Make roof. Make roof. Yes. Very good. Yes. I'm gonna save my time so I'm not actually building all this. Excuse? That's fine. And then this one's gonna suddenly jet up. We're gonna go nope. We're gonna go stack. I try and do this the best that I can. Literally just do that, thank you. And then boop, boop, boop. Roof, top. Not like that. Not like any of this. There we go, like that, thank you. And then from here to here, extend back. From here to here, extend back. And then there was a chimney back here. There's just one little lone chimney hanging out back there. I'm gonna do an anvil on top of it because I feel like that's correct. That's the right kind of chimney. Yeah, that's the kind of thing. This can go farther back to match up. I might as well do the other side. How well have I actually managed to do this, if at all? I'm gonna place the rest of these by hand and just let it be chaos. Because the house was kind of chaos. Let me do time set midnight. Midnight, there we go. That's what I want. Did I... Yeah, that's fine. I don't know what else. I don't know what else. I don't know. I don't know. It's not the correct one. I need this one. There we go. I don't know what else. I don't know. What else could possibly ever? I could do one more right here. That could be integral. The stutter's stuttering. No, it's not. That's not changing any of it. Okay. That's house. I think for once I got the integral pieces. That's the house. If I turn the gamma down, we're actually probably gonna hit this more on the head. And there it goes. So, how well did that do? Browse. Is it this one? Yes, it is. Oh, no. It wasn't. It was a porch, but I missed some of the colors. I missed the colors. And I missed the direction the roof was going. I missed the colors, the direction the roof was going, and how the front porch looked. I did get the front porch, I did remember the brick, and then it was being held up, but those are not the same. Those are not the same. I feel like the best I got was the previous dark house that was going on. Well. Lovely. Should I just... We're literally only an hour into stream. You know what I think we can do? You know what I think we can do? I'm gonna get rid of this. I think we're gonna do Tear Swoop Force without my glasses. we could do that. I'm decent at it, but you never know. Decent, I have all the achievements. I have horrible vision, though. I have downright horrible vision, so... Failed challenge. We fly without glasses. Alright. Alright. Am I on the right account that I actually have Tear Swoop Force? In the first place? Yep. Am I? Do I? Can I? Just have? Do that thing? I want to find more flight maps, too. That is another thing. I want to find more flying maps. That's what yesterday's stream was gonna be, but then there was all renovation chaos, but... Do I have? Yes, I do have. I do have Tear Swoop Force. Continue FL multiplayer. I don't care. Game capture. Minecraft Windows. I want to successfully do all 4 courses without my glasses. that's what I want to do. I want to successfully do the 3 main tunnels and the last tunnel without my glasses. We're gonna teleport to Trophy Room. That's not what you're supposed to do. There we go. Okay. I forgot I have depth perception now. I'm gonna need my eye drops after this. Okay. Are you ready to see how horrible my depth perception is? We're gonna have a grand old time with. I can barely. I rely heavily on the cursor. Oh my god, I can't see myself. I rely heavily on the little cursor. I can barely see it. Ow, my eyes hurt. Okay. This is gonna be very interesting. I didn't even need to click that. I don't know why I did that. Oh, I rely so heavily on the cursor and being able to see the end of the tunnel. Is this pure muscle memory? Can I do any of my hacks? Can I do any of my speedrunning strats? Because I have speedrun all of these. I've spent 2 different streams speedrunning all of these. Oh. I'm only gonna be able to see things right when they're in front of my face. This is gonna be... There's a surprising amount of contrast, actually. They did fantastic designing these, because I'm actually doing this quite well. I can't read the numbers. I have no idea what my time is. 46? Right? I think that's right. Something like that. Am I too good? Am I just gonna do this and easily? I will still do a serious stream where I do something or other without my glasses. Oh. Apparently, I should not speak. If I do this really easily, I will message the Discord and we'll figure out something that I can do instead. I could go to the end stronghold and oh my god. You know what, maybe I should just set my sights low and get through this first. Do that. My depth perception ruins me here. It's I can't see or understand a damn thing. Once I'm out in the open, it's fine. Which is why the first tunnel was so good, but right there just screwed me. I'm trying not to squint to make anything better, easier, either. I'm just taking it as it goes. Trying to run with it the best I can. I do not have the good muscle memory because I'm just hitting all the things. I just want... It's not even putting my flying to the skills, it's putting my sight to the skill. To the skills? To the test. It's not even putting my flying skills to the test, it's putting my sight to the test. Which, not there. Take literally any image ever and put max Gaussian blur on it, and that is my vision right now. That is, oh. I literally just went straight into it. The fourth one's gonna be horrid. Can I even do the fourth one? Some things are definitely easier to see, but others just simply are not. Oh, I haven't done Tear Swoop Force with Facecam. Now you get to see how in the world I play this game. I think this would be really funny with an eye tracker, because my eyes wouldn't... The eye tracker wouldn't move, but my head would. Because that's how I do this. I swear I was just gonna hit my head there. Okay. I was getting better. I swear I was. It's slowly, very slowly. Very, very slowly. Okay. We're good, we're fine. Surprised they didn't hide Noxesium up there. They've hidden a bunch of fake gems around the corners. I just call them Rainbow Emeralds. They're called Noxesium. They're Rainbow Emeralds. They hide the Rainbow Emeralds absolutely everywhere, and there's also Dark Rainbow Emeralds. Well, just in time for Pride, actually. I have ran around and gotten all of these, so that's why there's unicorn effects every time I die. I don't have a zoom. It's Bedrock. Well. Yeah. Oh, it's on the all tunnel speedrun timer, so we're gonna see exactly how long this takes by the end of this. Y'all ready for the next hour of stream? Y'all ready? We've gone from one challenge to the next. Let's go. Well, this is great. This is fantastic. I love this. Fun fact, if it dares rain, I just can't see a damn thing. Because if I take my glasses off, the world is flat. I am currently viewing a flat image with, like, no depth at all. All the edges are completely blurred. Also, I got the off scot-free with that. I don't think I'm gonna survive the rest of this. But that, I should have really died there, and I didn't. And I think that's the only reason I'm gonna get through here. No, it's gonna be just barely not. No. Maybe? Oh. Yeah, I didn't see those. I did not see those. Yeah. That's how it go. That's what it do. I got dunked? I can read that. I got dunked. What do you mean? What do you... I did get dunked. I did just get dunked. Root beer for good luck. Nummy. Is it good luck? Is it? Is it really? It is! It is good luck! Okay, we got this. Root beer is gonna... I mean, I'm still alive. But I did just lose literally all of my speed. Is that lucky? That might be helpful, actually. That might, in fact, be helpful. Because at this point, I'm not going for the time. This is not a speedrun time thing. I am not speedrunning this without my glasses. No, I just want to finish it, period. That is the goal, I just want to finish it. Because I have genetics going against me right now. And apparently my allergies, because my nose is itching like hell. Root beer for the win! It doesn't help I currently have my window open. That is not helpful in this. But root beer for the win. Okay, lovely. Get me out of here and to the third one. We're halfway there. How much? Finish. I did see that. Alright, I struggle. I always use the right path. I struggle with it, even with my glasses on, because I run into all the debris that is right here. But apparently I'm just fine without my glasses. Okay, forget everything and anything I've ever said. Completely blank slate. I immediately just hit that, but it's fine, because root beer for the win. That is what we do. Oh. Again, zero depth perception. Zero. I am purely following whatever is the brightest, and that tells me what's closest. Oh. That's not far enough. Snagged a toenail. That wasn't close enough. Had to cheat to see the ending. No, I didn't! I've 100%ed this! You don't... You don't get to say that. Use dive. I wish I do use dive whenever I fail this. When I was speedrunning this, every time I failed, I would just dive straight into the ground and restart. Like that. Oh, that is not how. Had to cheat. We already saw that end. We already saw that death message. We already did. I know we did. Because I commented on it. Made horsey noises with coconuts. I bought the cheap envelopes and licked them. Not that disgusting. Surprisingly, I don't do a lot of sound effects. I do just random stims, and I get stuck with them. I much prefer catchphrases over noise stims. I'm just... And since streaming and doing content and editing my own content, unfortunately some of those stims are just my own fucking sayings. There's a moment in Season 1 of Passion SMP, I think it's episode 8 or something, whenever I went to the trial chambers with Pumpkin, I said, "Come back for your potatoes." And I loved it, because I don't know why I found this so funny, but I did. And I still say that way too much. Because the times I should have said that would have been once. Just once. That's the only time I should have said that in my life. But now, I say all the time, with that specific inflection, "Come back for your potatoes." Or back in the back. Back in the back is a good one. I'm trying to remember any others that I've ended up giving myself. I can't really think of any others I've given myself. Oh, perfect. I think that's a meme though. That is a meme one. But oh, it's a full cookie is another one, which is now a sound alert because I figured out how to do that. I think I cut it out. I did "It's a full cookie" again in the episode that went up today. So I was editing that last night. I think I got rid of it because it didn't fit the flow of the end of the video. I'm having so much trouble with this area. I think I'm gonna need more root beer. I'm gonna need another sip of root beer. Fun fact, squinting my eyes doesn't help nearly as much as it should because one of my eyes is worse than the other. So that's great. Because even if I squint, I'm still seeing a double image. It's not good. It is very much so not good. This is the farthest we've made it. But also, this is the difficult portion. After this, but... was taken home to their country roads. Country roads. This is probably copyrighted. To the SMP. I do own. Based in the East Plains of the Minecraft server. Take me to my base. Cash and SMP. Ah. Lovely. Was spoiled by Nuttook Hero of the Village. It took me way too long to remember what that was a reference for when I was speedrunning Terra Swoop Force. It took me way too long playing this game to remember that. Thought they were playing Dropper. I never got into Droppers. I liked watching them when I was little, but I never got into them. I think I have a Dropper map even. Oh, that'd be horrid without my glasses. I think I just need to go around and see what I can play without my glasses. And I'll grab Axe or I'll grab someone to be a control to understand how difficult something may or may not be. Forgot their Floop Squad training. Floop Squad. I did forget my training apparently. Didn't fly when told to by Gandalf and thus is a fool. Foolish indeed. But a winner, I am not. I am not. Struggles with tutorial levels. That's because they're a butthead and they're babying me when I just want to play the game. I don't need a full tutorial level to tell me how to merge the two items. It's a merge game. I wouldn't be playing a merge game if I didn't want to merge stuff. You don't need to baby me and make me do each match 3 to understand how to match the 3. I know how to match the 3. You do not have to baby me for a mobile game. Especially if it's just a stupid puzzle game. If it's a puzzle game, you do not need a tutorial. If you desperately think your puzzle game needs a tutorial, put a little question mark how to in the top right. That's all I need. Let me skip the tutorial. Not sponsored. Oh, hey, I made it this far. It's not gonna last, but I could be happy about it. Hold on, Lee. I need to be able to read chat for a second. Any peanuts? Yeah, we got in-flight service again. That was worth putting my glasses on for. I should just freak out the camera every time I need to chat. Just yeah, any peanuts? We got peanuts. we got plenty of peanuts. The peanuts will be back to the cabin shortly. Our in-flight critic is currently with us today, and he really likes peanuts, so please, give him all your peanuts. And please, someone, find my glasses. It's in one of your luggage cases somewhere. I don't know how it got in. It's a prank from the flight crew, but I would really like to have them back. So if everyone could please check their luggage for my glasses, that'd be great. That'd be swell. What do you mean they're in front of me? What do you mean they're sitting? I can't see them, Gerald. Gerald, I cannot see them. They are not in front of me, Gerald. I don't know. They're not. What do you mean they're not? They are not on my head, actually. No, they're not on my face. I'm not wearing them. I'm pretty sure I'm not wearing them. They're not in... I don't remember where I left them. Or I do. They were in the luggage. This is the farthest I've made it. Thank you, Gerald. Thank you. Thank you, Gerald. Gerald for the win. Gerald for the win. Can I... Oh! I can still make it. That sucks. I can still make it. I did that on one of the speedruns, but it's fine. I know for a fact I can still make it from that. That is enough to make it. Okay. Final one. Final one. Gotta squint. Nope, all I have is taco. Why you have a bunch of tacos in your luggage? Also, my luggage would be filled with burritos from my favorite burrito place. If I'm ever, like... Is there a plane out there? I did not see that goal until very last minute. My luggage would be filled with burritos from my favorite burrito place that I have to drive 8 hours to get to, but it's fine. It's just a day trip. It's just casual American day trip. I am gonna still do my same route. This is a horrid decision because I have to squint when I have my glasses on to do this route, but I want to do it. That is what I wish to attempt. And I am going to do it. I have no clue how we're gonna do this. Probably very slow, actually. That might just be the call. Very slowly. This is too slow. I'm just, yep. Root beer. Root beer, Mir Gerald. What was that? Lost the game. Everyone lost the game. I lost the game. Was not the imposter. It's my eyes are feeling like the imposter right now. Because I know for a fact I can do this, it's just genetics said no. It's not allowed. Sight? What's that? I've never had it, actually. Foresight, is that what you yell when you're playing golf? Is sight a golf thing? Wrote Jar Jar Binks into the script. Misa actually likes that character. I think the only reason I liked him is because I didn't watch too much of the movies growing up, but I did play a whole lot of LEGO Star Wars, the complete collection. The complete saga. Oh, I would have been fine. I would have been fine. Thank you, Nightbot. I love having to squint and figure out what everything is. And in LEGO Star Wars, he's actually a pretty useful, funny, comedic character. He's not too annoying. He doesn't have any voice lines or dialogue. It's just whoa every time he dies, and that's about it. So I fucking love playing Jar Jar Binks. Also, he was extremely useful because he was the only character that could jump tall, jump high. I need some. I was trying to get through that tunnel slow. That's not something I don't think I can do. I'm not sure. We're gonna find out. Hopefully, I slowly just build a muscle memory with this. Because I know I can finish this. I know I can do it. I've speedran all of these. It's just a matter of building up enough muscle memory with my poor sight and getting used to where things are and are not. To do it. I missed the tunnel by 1 block. Ate an extra large helping of cottage cheese. I don't like cottage cheese. I can't do the texture. I really want to do overnight oats or like any of the oat recipes, but I just cannot stand the texture. I wish I could like sticky rice. I can't stand that texture. All of them are the same problem. I can't do like soupy oatmeal. I have to have my oatmeal with barely a drop of water, just enough to mix it all in. And that is it. I cannot do the soupy texture. I tried to do slow again. I can't do slow. I just gotta trust. I just gotta send it. It's still a piece of garbage. It's still a piece of garbage. Root beer. This is my Roadhouse. It's just root beer. How is the Roadhouse reference? I don't know. It's something. I forgot sulfur, tungsten, and silver. I don't know what that's a reference to. I'm assuming something like 900 gigawatts. Hung in the sky much the same way that bricks... I've had a complaint about this. I've said this complaint during the speed run. You could literally just say hung in the air like a brick, and it would have made so much sense. Like, I get there is a personality and there is a voice. There is a writing voice. I can appreciate the writing voice of that, but it has zero prose. It doesn't have a good flow to the sentence. And that's what annoys me more than anything. We gonna get this. We gonna do it. We gonna do it. Somehow, some way, I will find a way. We'll find a way to fucking Victory Town. Trust, 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 trust! Send it! Send it! Send it! Send it! I'm gonna do it! Gerald, can you hand me the peanuts? I missed that one. Root beer me. Root beer me, Gerald. Should have had a fast pass. I should have my glasses is what. I wish there was a deaf message that said you should have worn their glasses. If that exists, I want to get it. I want that to exist, and I want that to happen while I'm doing this without wearing my glasses. Yep. 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 Found their secret invisible wall. Well done. More games need to do invisible walls. But like, well done invisible walls, not, oh, there's an invisible wall here. If you walk through it, it gets you everything you could ever want. No, it needs to be like a well-informed invisible wall that something lets you know it exists. And there's some sort of rule or understanding of, if you find this thing, somewhere nearby is an invisible wall. Or something that makes sense for it to be an invisible wall there. Like, if you see footprints leading up to it, or there's like a pool of blood underneath a wall where it's clearly seeping out from somewhere, but that's under a wall, so you walk through the wall, and hey, it's just an invisible wall. It shouldn't make sense somehow and not just be, oh hey, invisible wall, yeah, I guess. You have that there. Yeah, that's cool. What's not cool is running into the wall, because you're trying to find the invisible wall. I will find the invisible wall in this flight map. It's the same icicle every time, and I have no excuse. There is no excuse, because it's this exact same one every time without fail. We're still going. We're not going. Is there a member of the grenade train? What's that? I know about the hype train. I know about the prime. I do not know about the grenade. Yeah. I was so close. We were almost there. I almost had it done. And then I clipped my toenail. Apparently I just have a concussion. Is not speedrunning. No, I am not. I did my speedruns. I'm happy. I did everything I needed, I'm done. I think I'm low-key giving myself the hiccups, and it's not fun. Why did I go this way? Why? Why did I do that? Because I can't see, that's... I did give myself the hiccups, that's why. I'll switch out water bottles. What was that last one? Fail to understand the gravity of the situation. Oh, no, I think I understand. I can't see. I think... So much fun. So much fun. It's not like I can blame it on anything else, because the obvious blame is the fact I can't see. It's simple as that. I should have just done, not even built from memory, I should have had a reference on my right, and then just built without my glasses. That's gonna be the next one. I'm just gonna build without my glasses, it's fine. Set. Clipping the toenails. Clipping the toenails. I'm gonna knock off a pinky next. I can do this without bonking my head against. I cannot do this without bonking my head. Died so many times we ran out of death messages. So there isn't one that says I lost my glasses. You know I can't hear you without my glasses, coward. I will. We will. I will not. Had to get the door. Yeah, Actually, Dusty isn't. For once, Dusty isn't clawing out the door. There's kitchen renovations going on. That's why I didn't stream last night. And there's a bunch of plastic wrap out there because we redid the ceiling. And didn't want to get it on everything, obviously. So there's plastic wrap everywhere to cover this thing and that. And the cats do not like it. Aurelie, the oldest, does not give a shit. She was there when they put it up. My mom threw her through it, and then she realized, oh, it's whatever, it doesn't matter. Dusty and Dinah, the two middle kitties, stayed in my room the entire day, and the only reason Dinah left is my brother came in and got her out. I asked him to come in and get her because I knew she was not going to leave that box. And she's just going to be a prick to Dusty. Dusty also did not leave the room the entire day. Even in the middle of the night. In the middle of the night last night, 3 separate times he tried to leave. And I opened the door and he realized, wait, it's still there. Oh no. This is too scary. No. And backed away. I go laid down in bed. He scratches at the door. He tries again. He's not so sure what's... He's not so sure about it. He looks around, just trying to figure it out. I was like, dude, I just want to go to bed. He's like, no, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. Give me another minute. I go lay down in bed. We try again. And finally, he finally left. I did get a half hour of cuddling with him. Dusty's not a cuddling kitty. He stayed under my arm, curled up in my lap this morning for a half hour. I'm so pleased. Because usually if he's curled up with me, he has to have loves 24/7, but no. I just had one arm slung over him, the other doing my language lessons. When I was done with my language lessons, I gave him a bunch of attention. Hey, he just chilled out with me. It was fucking fantastic. I'm very happy. The other cats still despise the plastic. Dinah wants nowhere to be near it. It doesn't help we also have a new person in the house, so the scaredy cats don't want to be anywhere near that. Jenny, the big Mancoon, who is also the scariest scaredy cat in the world, just has not left that room. Has not left my parents' room. Just refuses to. Multiple times in the middle of the night. She usually roams out at night. She's pretty nocturnal. Is getting her from my grandma, who is still alive. I feel like that's important to mention every time. I need to focus so I can see. I need to focus so I can see. Anyway. Jenny apparently woke people up many times throughout the night because she loves roaming around at night, but she couldn't because she did not want to be anywhere near that plastic. And it got to the point where her mom's like, just go, and threw her. This is the farthest we've made it. Apparently, I just need to tell random fucking stories until I get it right. Thank you, Gerald. Thank you, the cat, for the cats. I need to not say anything until I actually win. What's another bullshit story I can tell so I can get myself through this and think? Should I just start reading the B-movie script? Don't know if there's anything else I can recite from memory. Oh, the reason I was late for stream? I said at the beginning of stream, oh yeah, I was late, you're not gonna guess why. You wanna make a magical guess? Because I bet you're not gonna guess why. I was writing down recipes. Because the internet ain't forever, and I want to keep my goddamn recipes. So I can tell you how I make my shortbread cookies. There's a very specific shortbread cookie I make, and it's really freaking simple because it's literally just like a cup of flour. Oh no, this is the half batch. This is a half batch of cookies. It is a perfect amount for one person if you're really insane, or just 2 or 3 people. One person over a couple of days. They can last a couple of days quite easy. They're going to be a little harder. You might want to pop in the microwave for a few seconds. But they're still going to be pretty damn delicious for the first 3-4 days. After 5 or so days, they start getting a little stale. But they're absolutely delicious, pretty damn easy to make. A cup of flour, half a cup of butter, preferably cold. The original recipe was room temp. I discovered by accident cold actually turns out pretty damn well. And then do half a cup of sugar and a 1/4 cup of brown sugar. And then a little bit of salt. Mix the sugar and butter together in a mixer, and then add in the flour and salt. And you have your shortbread cookies. It should be a nice crumbly texture. You pop it on a pan. You fold it out into a nice flat disc. I'm trying to still do recipe, because it's important that I finish the recipe so I could get through this. You put it in the refrigerator for an hour. And cook at 375 for 12 to 15 minutes. And you'll be good. It should be nice and brown on the edges. Okay. How long did that take me? How long? How long did that take me? Oh, I can see detail. Okay, that's weird to have. It took me a half hour. That took me a half hour. I only finished it because I started reciting my shortbread recipe. Also, add chocolate chips if you want. Mini chocolate chips are really good for this. You can cut out the rectangle plane that you popped in the freezer. You can just cut it into little bite-sized cookies, like 1 by 2 inch. It's perfect. It's delicious. Okay. I hope y'all know this is Wednesday's video. I am keeping I'm keeping that entire recipe in. I'm gonna uncut that. I'm just I almost dropped the root beer. I'm sorry, Gerald. Okay. Well, alright. Cool. I did it. I did it. It's still a shorter stream, but that's fine. You know what? Do you want... I don't think I'm going to throw this in the video. I just want to do this for fun. Because it's still straight. No? Do I not have any in my game? Okay, hold on. I think I need to change accounts. But, when did my... Oh. My own music stopped playing at some point. Well. The stream music wasn't going. Well. I'm gonna change accounts. Because I'm pretty sure I have a dropper map. I am damn positive that I do. I am almost certain of it. I'm pretty sure I have a dropper map. I have a shit ton of free maps from like old events they used to do when I was super playing Bedrock. That's where a majority of my maps have come from, and some of these you can't get anymore because they're not on the marketplace. If you try and look for them, it's at like 999,000 coins because it doesn't the site doesn't comprehend not having it. It's updating the launcher. Lovely. Lovely. I love this so much. So much. Oh, so much. Why is my... Oh, my cheeks are probably red because I've been squinting. That's why my eyes are paler and my cheeks are... Okay. That would be why. Close. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. Shut up. Is this... No, it is not the correct. What do you mean error code? All I did was log out. What do you mean? What do you mean? There we go. This one should have all of my stuff. Can you load? Thank you. Bye. this should have all my stuff. Hopefully. I don't care. I don't care. Yeah, this is the one that has all the maps. Can I do glitch runner without my? We're gonna do glitch runner without my glasses. This has just turned into me doing a shit ton of stuff without my glasses, and I am not upset by it. I can't believe this was my vision for the longest time. I'm like, yep, this is okay. This is live. In front of me? Okay. It shouldn't be too difficult to do. There is a question of how many points I'm actually going to get out of this. But it should be far from difficult for me to actually manage. We're just going to do one run of it. I don't care too much. I think it's a little bit broken, but whatever. Because it doesn't really get any harder. It's just randomly generated. It's colorful enough I can see. The dropper is going to be the real question of how horrible is my eyesight. I do absolutely just need to grab people and do shit without my glasses. I feel like that'd be really fun. Where's... Oh, it was right here. Give me that. Oh, hey! I got a totem? I got a totem? I don't think I've ever seen the totem when playing this. By the way, this is how I started learning parkour. There are like most of my skills that I use day to day, or most of like the other skills I use in Minecraft, parkour, flying, I have just learned from various maps. I got really good at flying Terra Swoop Force because of Terra Swoop Force, but mainly because of the old glide minigame on like the old Xbox 360 and the PS3 editions. Yeah, this is just actually... I can see enough of this. This is fine. It's nothing too complex. It's just... Yeah. This is zero problem. I would religiously play the glide minigame, and I did it over and over and over. There were 2 different scores you could get. And there was a bonus, like, special score if you could manage to do both of these. There was doing it without losing a single heart the entire run, and there's also doing it in the best time. And then you got an absolute perfect score if you managed to do both. And I ran it religiously over and over until I could get both scores on all 3 of the base maps. And my friend Sugar Cookie, who I refer to as such on streams, can attest to this, because she was there as I religiously played through these and slowly got through every single one and redid it. So the totem only matters for the little bug guys. She was there as I slowly did it over and over and over and over again until I finally got it. And Terra Swoop Force definitely did help. Absolutely. Yeah, I own a bunch of things. There's Dropper of Horrors. That is an option. I'm pretty sure I have a classic dropper. Original dropper. This is the old-fashioned dropper. This is the one everyone made a video on. Alright. Can I do a dropper without my glasses? Oh, there's Def's in the right-hand corner. Lovely. I'm not gonna... Oh, what do you mean? What do you mean? Okay. I'm not sure this is to my advantage or not. I'm not sure if that's to my advantage. Mountain? Is it this is just a survive. Okay. That's Def. Where's the water then? Maybe not. Okay, the first one, yes. The other one's no. There's water way over there. Okay. I understand now. I do not understand. I understand now? No. I understand. I don't understand. I do not understand. How are you... I know the water's over there. How are you meant to get over there? How does one do that thing? Do I gotta do that? No. We're getting somewhere with that route. The other route I could get down, though? I have no idea how I'm meant to get to that water. Yeah, it's all the way over here. So how do they expect you to get down that way? That's how. Okay, that's how. How we do this? How house? How almost. So this isn't something that's super affected by my glasses. It's just actually a matter of being skilled at it. Because I can't see what I'm doing, believe it or not. I'm just not good at droppers. I am just not good at droppers. Because I know there's water down there because it's such a different color than everything else. It's very easy to see, which is kind of the point. Too forward. Too much forward. But yeah, I don't know why they didn't put you all the way over there when you need to be over here. Alright, I'm thinking this isn't too bad, actually. This isn't... I just don't do droppers. Yeah. I just don't play droppers. I say with 20 deaths by level 3. I can't zoom. I was trying to zoom. I can't zoom. Yeah, it's just over there. I can see that without my glasses. That's tinted blue enough. I can see it. Yeah. This isn't a glasses thing. This one's easy. I could do this. That's easier than the Terra Swoop Force. Is there anything else that may be difficult without my glasses, or is that just gonna be it? A lot of these aren't really... I guess Grid Runners kinda, but not really. It's not really a heavy thing. Yeah, it's only Terra Swoop Force. There's another dropper. I'm willing to try the other dropper as well. Yeah, I don't care. Great anyway. I'm willing to give it a chance. Did the plane crashed? I don't know. Did the plane crash? We did success. We were successful. And we move over to droppers. Because I want to just try other things now. Waiting for it to load in first. Oh, okay, yeah, I remember. I remember playing through some of this when I got it, bought it, whatever, however I got it. Complete all 7 levels and find secret levels along the way. Dropper levels over here, okay. Let's try. Oh, this is one of the old-fashioned droppers. This is one of the old boys. Map helper. I don't need help. I only need my eyesight. Oh. What is the point of these? Distraction. Oh, no, you have to... Okay, you have to go through them. Those are the only safe spots. Got it. Noted. Noted! Nope. It's really annoying being put all the way back here if you could not... I'm having more trouble exiting out. Oh. Exiting out of that than anything else. I'm not sprinting. You gave me I had an elytra this whole time. Why didn't you tell me I was given why do I have an elytra? Elytras make droppers so easily. What? There weren't any other rings. I was going towards the ring. What? What? There wasn't another ring. It's going to this ring. And then there's the rings over here. Yeah. Yeah, it's just flying. Okay. Okay. Never mind, I guess. I am too good. Even though it took me a half hour. I am too good for my glasses. Or without my glasses. It is confirmed. It's only an hour and a half stream, but I'm fine with that. We did what we wanted to get done. I'll have to see what I get done this week to figure out what we do Tuesday. Tomorrow, I'm busy in the early part of the day. I'll see how much I record in the later half of the day. It depends what's going on. It depends. It strongly depends. We will find out, we will see. I don't have anything else than that. What we did today from Terra Swoop, from the building to Terra Swoop Force, will be thrown into a video coming out Wednesday. I have currently no plans for Tuesday, Thursday stream. It's probably just going to be whatever I'm working on in Passion SMP. We'll see. And same thing for Saturday. I have currently no plans regarding that. The Tuesday stream should be normal time, 7 PM PST. And no other thoughts, no other ideas going on for the other things. If you want to give me some challenge ideas, that'd be great, because I really enjoy doing these build challenges. I need to figure out more stuff to do for them. But I did have fun scrambling around for 5 seconds trying to remember everything, and then doing stuff for 5 minutes. I think that was fun. I do like the time constraints. Because otherwise, those are decently easy for me.